No, the headline is not bait. Esteban will be leaving Alpine at the end of this season. His contract will not be renewed at that team he's been at since 2020. Given recent things, I'm not overly surprised, let's be honest. But now let's look at Esteban's realistic options, because there's a few on the table, far too talented to be out of the sport. But some things do need to change. My name's Tomo, his name is Minton. Let's talk about it. Right, this is one of those one-take videos where we just wrap through things pretty quick. I wasn't planning on doing a video today, but here we are. So my last video on the channel was all about Esteban, who is the F1 rookie that might replace Ocon in Canada. It doesn't sound like that's going to happen now. It sounds like he will be in the car this weekend. However, there's no smoke without fire. The reaction from Bruno Fama was not minor. You know, it was a serious reaction to what in isolation wasn't a massive thing. We see teammates clash all the time, really. It's not that out of the ordinary. However, the context as to these two, Gasly and Ocon, look, that was always a baptism of fire. Otmar was always coping, putting those two together, hoping it would work. The Grand Alpine, all French, allez le blue dream. It's not to be. So Ocon is making way. And, well, he's put a statement out. We'll quickly rack through this. So, Alpine F1 team and I have agreed together to part ways at the end of the 2024 F1 season. Plays a significant part in my life, dating back to his Lotus Junior program days. Yes, of course, this Enstone team's gone through many different guises over the years, including Lotus at one stage. I feel incredibly lucky and privileged to have achieved the things I did with this team, from my first podium to my first win in Formula 1. These achievements truly were dreams come true. In fact, he's been on every step of the podium, hasn't he, since he joined Alpine. He's been P3, he's been P2, and he's been P1. I've crossed paths with so many inspiring individuals in my time here, and there are too many people to thank, and we have had many ups and certainly some downs. Certainly some downs. He's not wrong. He's not wrong. The extremity of winning a race, being on every step of the podium in that team, but also, damn, some clashes with Fernando over the years, and most recently with Gasly. Oh, it's a shame this hasn't worked out. It is truly a shame. Still, there is a long way to go this season. My focus is 100% dedicated to the team and what we need to do together. Blah, blah, blah. Many drivers this season. A lot has been said about my future beyond 2024. News will be announced in due course. Interesting. And this does come off the back. Obviously, this is on Instagram. This does come off the back of another statement fairly recently put out by Esteban Ocon in the wake of what happened in Monaco with Pierre. Much has been said in the aftermath of the Monaco Grand Prix. While I've received many messages of support, I've been deeply saddened by the amount of abuse and negativity that I've received online regarding my character, my driving, and my career. Thanks to the hard work, support and sacrifice of many people, I've raced 140 Grand Prix so far since my debut in 2016. I've always been a tough competitor, and like most drivers, I've had my share of incidents. I've been lucky to race alongside talented, experienced teammates, including Ricciardo, Checo, and Gasly, and a double champion in Fernando. As teammates, we would often start races very close to each other, which in some cases meant tough battles on track and sometimes contacts. Look, ultimately, this has been a big subject matter recently, okay? And it is a big reputation that Ocon is carrying right now. This Monaco incident will not have helped his cause, okay? He's shaking the bad teammate, which I've literally made multiple videos on. I did my profile piece on Esteban, my analysis of his high performance podcast interview where he talks about his battles with Max and how it's all or nothing for him, and how that attitude, I do believe, has carried over to Formula 1, and he doesn't. It's not even so much just playing the team game, it's managing a situation and looking at it from a holistic point of view. You know, when Lando talks about not going ham against Max Verstappen to, like, well, maybe now that the car has caught up, the McLaren can actually win races on pace. But when the McLaren was behind on pace, what are you doing, dog? What are you doing? When it was behind on pace, and, you know, people would criticise Lando for, like, you know, ushering Max through, but, you know, it's not your fight. You're going to lose too much pace. You're going to lose tyre temperature. You need to focus on your own race when you know you're not in a race with Max. If I know it's a different situation for Esteban, it's fighting with your teammate, but, like, play to your outs and analyse the entire situation. You don't need to go hell for leather in every single instance, because sometimes it's not worth it. I think that is fair critique. I think that is very fair critique. However, as we know, okay, as we all know, we all experience it to an extent. Obviously, me putting myself out there into the world and doing videos and talking about a sport and putting my opinions into the world, I get pushback. Of course, I get stuff that is way beyond the line, and some people are just absolutely unhinged with their attacks. And there is no doubt in my mind that a lot of people have used this as an opportunity to overstep that line and just send horrific stuff to Esteban. I'm sure he's got some very nasty stuff. Based off my experience, just being some bloke who talks about it, you know, the height of the strength of feeling that comes with a small vocal minority of Formula One fans, particularly of course on Twitter, but even look at Instagram, it's the same, right? It's just full of it. And look, of course I've made honest mistakes. We are not robots, we are athletes pushing ourselves. F1 is a sport where emotions run high and passions run deep. I see this and feel every weekend at the track and on social media, the good and the bad, but misinformed statements and gross distortions that I've seen online in recent days about my ability to work with the team have been inaccurate, hurtful and damaging. And look, again, it's not always him. I think that's fair to say, especially in the Force India days. I think if you look at him with Checo, there are as many times at least that I deem Esteban at fault as I do Perez at fault. I think they both gave as good as they got in that instance. I think with Fernando, it was more Esteban being kind of overly aggressive. But yes, fine margins. These are big cars, and it's just like you're allowed to acknowledge these things and critique these things. But there is a line that no one should overstep, right? And it gets in the way of having genuine dialogue, because I'm sure some people will look at this and be like, well, look, Tomo, you're part of the problem. You're talking about Esteban, like you're criticising him. Yeah, I'm criticising him. It's my entitlement as a fan, and without us fans, none of these lot would have jobs. I think we're entitled to have opinions, because without fans, this sport wouldn't exist. No sport would exist, right? Because brands wouldn't be there. If no one's watching, brands wouldn't support, because brands want us to buy stuff off of them. The fans are the bedrock. They are the foundation of everything, and we're entitled to have sporting opinions. I think I've seen enough evidence based off of the podcast interviews he's done, based off the chats with Esteban and Pierre, and understanding where Esteban came from, where he came from a very kind of working class background, and he was always up against, you know, kids with more budget than him, and, you know, sacrifices his family had to make. I understand it, and that's where my sympathy towards, I think I'm more sympathetic than most to why Esteban is the driver he is. And it works in many cases, because when he's battling wheel to wheel with others, I think Esteban, you know, is a hard racer. He's a tough racer, but it's a team sport. And I think sometimes he gets caught in the mist a bit, and he's treating everyone like his mortal enemy on track. And sometimes that's not the way to do it. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it is the way to do it. Whenever Esteban and Fernando tripped over each other, there was, again, a small vocal minority of Fernando fans who would go over and harass Esteban and say horrific stuff in his comments. And it's just a shame that people don't have the self-control. Like, a lot of time, adults don't have the self-control to be like, hang on, I can critique, I can be unhappy with how he's conducted himself, but there's a point where it gets a little bit too far. So, you know what? Fair play to Esteban. He's addressed it. And I don't know why I've gone to this overlay. He's addressed it, and look, he's moving on. He's moving on from the team. Now, I'm not overly surprised he's moving on. In fact, my predictions at the start of this season, my 2025 Formula 1 driver transfer predictions, I did predict Ocon to depart from Alpine. I predicted a Gasly-Doohan Alpine lineup. But I actually put Ocon at Williams alongside Sargent, because I was like, oh, Albon will take Stroll's seat at Aston Martin. What can I say? I was aiming for something that doesn't realistically feel like it's going to happen anytime soon, which is Lance Stroll departing that Aston Martin F1 team, because of course he's not there on merit. He's not an absolutely clueless, pointless, talentless F1 driver. However, he is not there on merit. We all know this, and I think Albon would do a much better job. And I think Aston Martin are going to have to, well, when Honda come in, and Yuki Tsunoda, he's going to be thinking about that Honda seat for sure, right? Honda are going to want to get him in there alongside Fernando potentially, or maybe to replace for Fernando. But this video is not about them. We want to talk about Esteban here, right? And I've predicted him at Williams. We'll talk about that option first, I guess, then, because there has to be options on the table for Ocon to announce his departure publicly at this stage. I don't know how much of this was Alpine trying to get it announced ASAP. And maybe there's a separate, well, we've already kind of talked about Jack Doohan in the last video. But in terms of Williams, you know, they've got a few options here. Obviously, there's talk of Carlos Sainz, there's talk of Valtteri Bottas, there's talk of Esteban Ocon. There has been already, and that's only going to jump up now alongside Alex Albon. Alex has given a clear confidence backing to that team, hasn't he? He said, you know what, I'm getting all in on this project now for the foreseeable. You know, I'm getting into my later 20s, but I'm gonna, you know what, I'm confident you guys can give me something, right? You guys and girls at Grove can actually put a package together that can mean from 2026 onwards with a Mercedes customer power unit in the back, which McLaren is proving in this moment is not a fundamental issue as long as you understand that power unit is being a manufacturer all it's cracked up to be, because Alpine haven't shown that in recent years, and we'll see with Audi. Maybe, and obviously not Racing Bulls, Red Bull will be RB powertrains. Ford, kind of wonder how long term, how much that will be cross badged or whether it will just be badged as Ford. But either way, Williams have extended their partnership with Mercedes. Albon believes in the project. They've got Pat Fry there. There's talk of Adrian Newey, one of the more exciting options to him being Williams. He wouldn't have to move outside of the UK. He could take a historic team that he was at back in the early 90s and bring it back to something pretty exciting. You know, Albon, Ocon, I think you've got two very talented drivers. I think you've got two very similarly talented drivers. I think their ability levels are pretty close. I think Albon has a maturity of race management, and we've never really seen him clash with teammates. I mean, he's had Verstappen. Verstappen was too far ahead for him to clash with him, let's be real. Kvyat, it was pretty close when he first came in. Then obviously Latifi and Sargent haven't really been great kind of benchmarks, have they? So as an Albon fan, do I want to see Ocon coming alongside with his kind of reputation as being a not so accommodating teammate? That's the thing, right? Because I think talent-wise, Esteban has so much. Like, I genuinely believe he is one of the most gifted drivers in Formula One. Okay, I think he's firmly there on merit. I think he's an amazing driver. I think he's got fantastic ability. However, this reputation will close doors off to him. If he wants to stay on the grid, he needs to be selling this idea that I'm not that guy that, you know, the media paints me out to be and the fans paint me out to be. But the problem is that he can't be in denial, because there is a reason. There is a valid reason why he has this reputation. Yes, of course, part of it is he's been teammates again with Checo, with Fernando, who have particularly, you know, strong, passionate fan bases. And when they have clashed, yeah, he does get a lot of stick from, again, a small vocal minority of people who take it over the line. But there's no smoke without fire. And for James Vowles to take Esteban on alongside Alex, I think Valtteri is a safer set of hands. Valtteri is a proven entity at Williams as well. He was at Williams before he joined Mercedes. That's the thing. I think Carlos Sainz obviously is more appealing than both Ocon and Bottas. I mean, Sainz is the one if they can make it happen. So Minton's just trying to get into his bed. Do you want to? My golf clubs are in the way. I'm just going to take a little break here. I'm going to leave this in because, you know, these videos, you're just getting a live insight into my life as he... Yeah, that's it. Get into your beds. It was my fault for putting my golf clubs on his dog bed, to be fair. If I'm James Vowles, would I go for Esteban Ocon over Carlos Sainz? No. If I'm James Vowles, would I go for Esteban Ocon over Valtteri Bottas? Ocon's younger. I mean, Ocon's certainly the more exciting prospect, but if I'm James Vowles, do I want excitement or do I want stability? You know, do I want comfort? So he's just got his noisiest toy in that bed. Do I want that? Yes, probably. So if I'm James Vowles, am I going for Ocon over Bottas? Don't think I am. I think put Bottas in, give Bottas like a 2-year deal, and then in 2 years there could be a, you know, we've got 2026 done, by the way, as well, because obviously this would be a deal for 25 and 26. Get Bottas in for a couple of years at least, give him a 2-year deal, and then reevaluate for 2027 what driver you could maybe put alongside Alex Albon based off of how you've done in that first year of the 26 regulations. So for me, that door, not so open on that one. Then, of course, Sauber. Sauber's obviously been mentioned. We know there's a seat available there. We know Carlos Sainz is potentially thinking about Williams as an option over Sauber. If it was me, I think I would go Williams. I think there's more of a clear roadmap for Carlos Sainz there, with Vowles in, with De Rilton bringing the money, You've got Albon, who's given it a rubber stamp almost of approval that he's entrusting this next period of his career with that team. I think Carlos Sainz, it would be a shrewd move. Maybe that plays into the Adrian Newey decision as well. Maybe that makes Adrian more confident, comfortable in that team, that they've got Albon and Sainz, because Albon and Sainz would be an unreal Williams lineup. That would be sick. So, yeah, I think that Sauber Audi project, does it end up like Alpine? Maybe not, but at the end of the day, Alpine are developing a power unit, but it's up to the Himmel-based team to develop the aero. And right now, they have made aerodynamically the weakest car on the grid. It feels like, the Williams and the Alpine are struggling a bit more with weight. If they didn't have the weight issues, they would. Maybe even Sauber would look even further back, because Racing Bulls have taken a step forward, etc., etc. I do think that Hulkenberg's obviously gone for it. He's a German driver. He's towards the end of his career. He's been offered an Audi Works drive, essentially. Like, you can't really begrudge him for taking it, but do I think Sainz is the guy? I don't know if Sainz is thinking about that seriously. So, does that make Ocon to Sauber a thing? I could absolutely see that. I could. He's not the big star name, but he is a race winner, technically, and he's got podiums, unlike Nico. I think Sauber's a maybe for sure. It's a big gamble, and I don't know if Carlos Sainz would be prepared to take that gamble on Sauber. I think Williams actually sounds a bit more of a sensible decision. A lot of this, it'll be hindsight. We'll be in 2026. Audi will do either amazingly or terribly, and then we'll all be proven wrong. But I think Sauber's a real possibility for Esteban. I don't know, because if Sauber don't get Sainz, I'm just thinking who else could be a big name that they try and swoop for. Maybe Sauber swap a Daniel Ricciardo. He's convincingly getting beaten consistently by Yuki Tsunoda at the moment. Maybe a Daniel Ricciardo swap for Audi. Big name, big high profile name. That could be the play for Sauber. So I'm definitely on the fence with Ocon to Sauber. That's a maybe. And then finally Haas. Haas seems to be the one that has the most legitimacy. I've seen more Haas rumours linking him to Ocon to Haas than any other. I think alongside Ollie Behrman, it's a big challenge for Ollie, because I feel like Ocon's very good. I think Behrman's not going to stand down. Again, it all just comes back to how will Ocon manage himself within a team. I mean, going to Haas is a completely different prospect off track than going to Sauber, it's going to become Audi, right? But maybe Haas, maybe Ocon sees Haas as a temporary, they're a quick car at the moment. Who knows from 2026 onwards, but they're going to have a Ferrari power unit for the foreseeable, which again, obviously having a power unit from someone else isn't fundamentally a bad thing. Not as bad as a thing as it used to be anyway, I don't think. Haas or Sauber? I mean, if I'm Ocon, I'm going... You've got to pursue the Sauber Audi opportunity, haven't you? I think there's a more potential upside. But do I think realistically Audi are going to get Ocon in alongside Hulkenberg to spearhead their new generation? I don't know. I'm not convinced. I think if I had to put money on it today, I would say Esteban Ocon to Haas. Then Sauber, then Williams. I don't think Williams is going to happen. Even though I predicted it last year. Even though this was literally my 2025 driver prediction. Ocon at Williams. Ignored this bit. Ignore that bit. Time will tell. So I'm sure we'll hear a lot about this weekend at the Canadian Grand Prix. Don't forget, I'm doing my live stream on Wednesday about midday. I've already scheduled that. So see you then. My name's Tomo. Thanks again. Have a good one. Ta-da.